All right, and we're live. Deadman's Tome, Cursed Earth. This is this is not going to be a continuous thing, but it's I don't know, Trev Hill. How would you describe it? Like on occasion?
Yeah, think of it as one of these meteors that flies around the universe, and it comes past occasionally, and if you're lucky, you'll catch it.
Yeah, that's what this is. That's what this is. So I'm obviously here with Trev Hill. Trev Hill. I can't even talk right now. Came across this guy like years ago on Deadman's Tome. Published one of his stories, but he's been a continuous contender in the meat grinder, Deadman's Tome meat grinder, where it's like a yearly contest now where people go in for a chance to win $50. I might even increase that to $75 next time. I don't know.
Oh, you know what? Next time as well.
Hell, next year I might go all wild and do $100. But that contest is the thing about it is you have to work for it, right? You have to get the views and likes and the comments and all that, because that's what it's based on in that meat grinder. And before I go any further, because we're going to talk about cursed earths, we'll talk about Cannock Chase, right? Cannock Chase in England. Cannock Chase.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Talk about Cannock Chase and the rumors and mystery and myths around that place, right? But before we get into that, so Trev Hill, tell me about your experience with the meat grinder.
Yeah, the meat grinder, you started it about, 4 years ago, something like this. Writing competition and $50. And I thought, well, that's not bad, because, a lot of guys out there, guys and girls out there who, if they've been trying to publish stories, they'll find actually you publish in a magazine or you publish in a compilation, and you can wait ages. You can wait ages for the decision. You can get a rejection, and your work's tied up, and you get like $10 or something like that, and you're. I applied for I put in for a compilation recently, and I didn't even get a reprint.
You didn't even get a reprint. Okay, yeah.
Well, what it was they said if your thing's already been published, you don't get a copy of the magazine. You just get $10.
Okay.
I thought, you can't even send me a bloody PDF, you skin buggers,
Yeah, a PDF would have cost them anything. They couldn't do that at least. Well, okay, let me ask you this. Not everyone has the same approach, really. But if you asked them, hey, could you send me a PDF? Like, what would they say?
That's it. Well, in the end, I decided $10. I didn't really want my work tied up for sort of a year or so for that $10. So I went with there's another magazine that I'm getting published in quite regularly.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just thought, well, I'll put it in there, because they don't tie the work up on holding the rights for a year or so. But yeah, so back to the meat grinder, and I thought, well, $50, this is like quite a thing. So the first time, because I entered the first one. I think that was with a story called Bitches, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. Bitches.
Yeah. That came from a bit of a joke. I was on a Facebook page about Emma James, the ghost story writer, and there was some American girl came on and says, "Hey, it's M.R. James time, bitches." And some of them are some of them are a bit stuffy on there, and I go,
"Yeah,
bitches.
I bet so."
And I thought, oh, that's quite funny, So that's where one of the main lines from the story comes from.
And the story won. Like, you won that contest. I think you won.
I didn't realize that until recently. I thought I only came second. But yeah,
you were like first place, I think, in all of them. Which is like, what is, because we do this again next year. So what is your strategy and advice for those that want to have a chance to win the meat grinder next year?
get in touch with your friends. Get in touch with your friends and things like this. I mean, I remember you had a guy on once, one of the other writers, and I think he was an ex-cop or something like this.
Yeah.
He was a really funny, he had some really funny stories, great things when he was chatting with you, and you went, dude, you've only got like 5 people.
Yeah, it was.
You've only got 5 comments. And he's going, yeah. And you're going, go down the station, get all your friends to do it.
Right.
And he's going, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Twitter. And I'm going, Jesus, come on. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on all these things. And I basically made myself unpopular for 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks with everyone I knew, going, why haven't you signed? Why haven't you commented?
Yeah, that's what you have to do. And he could at least went down to his cop buddies, Hell, he could have.
First week, I got... I think I got more than I got more comments than almost anybody for the rest of the competition just on the first week.
Yeah,
and really, I think this is a I don't think some of the other writers are proactive enough.
Okay, fair assessment to make.
If they think it's just going to sit there and people are going to come to them, they're wrong, unfortunately.
That is the truth. I mean, you even tied it to a charity, which I said it really, the meat grinder's fair game. You could do anything possible to get the views, bring the eyeballs to it, except for boosting, right? Except for flat out buying for views. And you tied yours to a charity. All right. I even said that to the emails. Hey, why don't you try that? You could split the money, the prize money, with your friends. I don't care what you do with it. You could burn it, buy a hooker. I don't care.
Well, this is what I thought. I thought, you're putting the money up. So part of my job is to get my story read, but also it's to get you some traffic. Let's
that's kind of what it is. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah. It's a just scratching my back, I'll scratch yours. But actually, just talking on the charity, I thought it quite funny that one of your guests over that period had said something about link up with a site, or if you're on a Facebook site, get all the guys there to do it. I actually didn't find that a very successful strategy. I'd been putting it up on sites and people sort of went, oh yeah, okay. No. I might get one comment or 2 comments. But the charity in question, which was this cats charity in Macedonia, called Ufos. There's over 5,000 members on that site, and you realise after a while that some of them are just there because they think it's a cool thing to have on their friends list. Yeah. Because actually, 5,000 people on that site, and I didn't even get 1% of that.
You didn't get 1% of it, but you got more than everybody else. So you won. Yeah. So next time, ladies and gentlemen,
and you got some new readers, Jesse.
Yeah. Tie it to some sort of charity, tie it to a group, let them know, hey, you can split the money with you, you get the money. I don't care what you do with it, but that's going to come again next year.
This is kind of what you'd have to do if you're going with proper, if you're going with sort of hardcore publishers, you've got to get out there and push it. And
I'll tell you what. Look, I also use that as a way to determine who I'm going to work with for certain projects. Like I said earlier before we started, the Deadmanstome Jr., we've released our first book, Halloween Nights on Monster Island, and it's doing well. Probably the best-selling book Deadmanstome has ever put out. Why?
Excellent. Fun.
Well, because I saw how the author performed in the Meat Grinder, and I was like, you know what? I would be dumb if I didn't work with this guy.
Yeah.
So, there you have it. So, besides writing and the writing contest and the Meat Grinder stuff, let's talk about Cursed Earth, because that's why we're here. Okay. That's why some viewers are coming in. So, where should we begin? I guess tell me why we should talk about Cannock. It's Cannock Chase, right?
Cannock. Like one of those people from north of the border, Cannocks.
Yeah. So why should we talk about Cannock's Chase? Why does it make it Cursed Earth?
Chase.
Yeah.
Cannock Chase. It's one of these very strange places. People who don't know about the alternative side of it, it's this beautiful area in Staffordshire, which is in the middle of England, alongside the border with Wales. And a beautiful place. It's got trees, it's got forests, it's got, kind of heathland, things like this. And I used to go there as a kid. My parents used to take us there every Sunday. We'd get a picnic, go there. Lovely place. Lots of wildlife and things like this.
Okay.
And it's then, after a while, I started hearing sort of histories about this place, and I just thought, ooh, my childhood is now sort of, God, I used to go to this place. It's like,
oh, really?
Yeah, nice creepy stories about it.
Okay, well, I guess before we get into the creepy stories, I mean, is there a certain history we should touch on?
Well, the chase itself. I mean, this is where the term chase comes in. It was a royal forest.
Okay.
At one time, so royal forests had the preserve that it's a bit like national parks. Only the sort of rich people could go and shoot things. All the area around there has some history. I believe there was a monastery or something like that there at one time. But also there's things like an Iron Age, the remains of an Iron Age fort there as well. So it's got quite a long history of people there as well. But it's had some really quite interesting uses over the years. They've recently had archaeologists working there because during the First World War they used to train soldiers there.
Okay.
And they've got a scale model of World War I trenches.
Mm-hmm.
They used to do the trench training. It was built by German prisoners, and there's rumours that there were after the First World War and in the Second World War, there's rumours of military experiments and things like this there. And then there was, as we'll come to, there was various crimes committed in the area as well. So,
yeah. Okay.
These are just the human aspects of it. So.
Okay.
So where should we start?
Yeah, so we got the history. Let's go into the creepy stuff. Let's go into what makes this cursed earth. Though the training ground sounds like it's promising. Okay, let's see what happens.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, as I say, the training ground. The training ground was there's this notion that with the First World War that like soldiers went out untrained, which wasn't true. And there's a few places in Britain where they've actually got remains of miniature trenches where they seem to have got the Germans to recreate like the trench lines, the German prisoners of war. We used to bring them to Britain. And have the prisoner of war camps around there. Okay. Now, these prisoners actually seem to have created a miniature version of places like Menhirs and things like this for the British troops to train in. Continuing thing with that is there's a German army, World War II German army cemetery there.
Really? Okay.
What happened? These are Germans who died. Well, Germans and there's Ukrainians, Austrians, and anyone who was part of that team. And being prisoners of war or being pilots who were shot down, something like this, they, if they died on British soil, they were buried on British soil, and not all of them were repatriated after the war. But what we did do was they combined all the cemeteries.
Okay.
Around the country into one. Sort of said, instead of having like a few Germans here and a few Germans here, let's stick them all in one place.
So they stuck them here. Huge
cemetery.
So they just
yeah.
Okay. Did they even mark them? Did they give them stones or anything, or just?
Oh yeah. It's a full. It's a proper cemetery. You can go in. There's a guide round of where the where different people are. So you've probably got some very interesting people in there.
Interesting.
I went round with a Polish person one time, and they saw the dedication and monuments to the Ukrainians who fought with like the SS and stuff like this.
Oh wow, okay. But I'm just thinking when the British were when they bury like a dead Nazi, like do they even go as far as like I don't know finding out the dude's name? I guess he has like a tag on him. I guess they could use that. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, in this case, they were prisoners of war, so they'd have been listed anyway.
Okay.
There was a certain case as well. One of them was actually executed by his own guys.
Oh man.
I forget the exact details to it, but they court-martialed him. The Germans court-martialed one of their own guys in the prisoner of war camp, and got permission to execute him. And I believe he's there somewhere as well.
Okay.
Now what's extra interesting on that was there's also as I say there's the miniature training ground as well. These miniature trenches.
Now, is there like ghostly activity related to this place? I would imagine so, with certain deaths.
Yes. Yeah. Supposedly, people have been seeing what they think are werewolves.
Werewolves. Oh, okay.
Yep. And a lot of the activity seems to be around there. So people have described seeing large figures. There's a whole host of different big furry things that seem to be running around. And one of them is these werewolves. They've been seen walking through, climbing over the walls, big animals, large teeth. And a few people have said they've come face to face with them, but obviously nothing's been got on film yet or anything like this. There are people who've said that they've heard them sort of yapping and making howling. Now, people who don't have as nice a fun idea of the world as the rest of us. Some of them have suggested there's something called gotta remember how to pronounce it. A munchai.
A munchai. No. What is a munchai?
Munchai.
Munchai. Like a
munchai deer. Munchai deer. Yeah, sorry, I can never pronounce.
What is a munchai deer? Like a magician or something? What is a munchai deer?
Munchats deer. It's I believe they're from Asia originally, but they spread into Europe.
Okay.
And they've actually got tusks.
Tusks.
They can, yeah. Okay. They've got kind of long faces, and they've got tusks coming down from the thing.
You got my interest here. Okay, gotta ask some questions. The werewolves. Okay, wait. Are there sightings? Are there like photos of this?
Sorry, say that again.
Are there any photos of these werewolves?
No. Not as far as I know, anyway. But there's been several sightings. I think there's about 30 sightings over the year.
Okay.
Of them, but a lot of the sightings seem to have happened in the 80s, but they've been quite continuous up along that time. But these, if I can, how do you say it? Munchach, I think, Munchach deer. They can walk on the back legs. They can stand up.
Okay.
And so some people.
Is that similar to? Is that similar to? Because I did some reading too. Is that similar to like what they call hellhounds?
Well, these deer are real sort of animals, that people can see.
Oh,
and
that's
so
a real
some
animal.
people say,
okay,
maybe that's the explanation. But apparently, what's been seen is actually a lot bigger than one of these deer. They're not actually that big.
Okay. Okay, so you're thinking that maybe the werewolf is based on, maybe they're actually seeing a real animal that exists, but it may not actually be a werewolf. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what some people think. I mean, I prefer the werewolf myself.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got apparently this very, very strange call, and this is what people think the howls are. But other people said, they've seen these things climbing, these werewolves. They've seen them climbing over the walls.
Oh shit! They climb over walls, huh?
Cemetery. Climbing over the wall of the cemetery. So it's not really the kind of activity that one of these deer would be doing. And so,
or a gravedigger or anything like that. So it's like, who would be climbing over a wall?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's. I don't know if there's any night staff there these days. I mean, they don't need. We haven't had any new dead Germans recently, so
yeah.
Yeah, so actually, leading from what you said, people have said about other things. They've said they think they've seen hellhounds, or even the Bigfoot.
Even Bigfoot.
Some people have said that they've seen a Bigfoot style creature running around. Apparently, that got some wrath from America, and they're saying, don't appropriate our monsters.
Don't take our Bigfoot. It's our thing.
We're so offended.
Oh man. Well, I do find that interesting that somehow Bigfoot made it all the way over there across the pond.
Well, the Germans did. You never know. Maybe it's a German Bigfoot.
Maybe. Did they wait? Is there like a fake found footage of a Bigfoot over there as well? Because that's how it started here, right? At least started in the U.S.
I don't think we have. We've got lots of things in Britain. We've got big cat sightings. There's. Oh wait a minute. Ready for this?
I'm ready.
Can you hear that?
What was that?
That's a Munchausen deer barking.
Oh, that's what it sounded like. Yeah.
But this is where people think, in the dead of the night, that could sound like the hellhound, but I don't think so. We've got legends of like black dogs as well. Certain parts of England, there's this is actually where the story of bitches came from.
Okay.
We got these supposedly more like hellhounds or cursed dogs that you meet on the moorlands, and you're usually in trouble if you meet one. But again, people haven't really got footage of those. There have been things of big cats, like supposedly pumas. There's one or two places, I think Bodmin Moor and Dartmoor down in the
and I've heard about them
England.
as well, like the cat sightings. I think we talked about on the Deadmanstome podcast before. I think I guess there's some things where like big cat owners have released them back in the 60s or 70s, and maybe some of them got out of a zoo. I don't know.
Yeah, this is actually one of the things. There's a lot of private zoos. People have had these private zoos, and maybe during the war they've escaped, things like that. But it doesn't necessarily explain it around Cannock Chase, because they.
Okay.
Although there's a lot of places which were kind of stately homes around that area. I don't think there was so much in the way of private zoos. Although you never know what like the 19th century they were doing. Actually, Tolkien lived just on the edge of Cannock Chase.
Oh, he did. Okay. So
I think he based some of the places in Lord of the Rings on the place. So.
Huh. I can see why. I mean, just looking at the way the place looks great. Looks like it would inspire that sort of thing. Now, where do you think the idea of hellhound, like, where do you think that came from? Or related to kind of case?
I think possibly like wild dogs.
Wild dogs.
Yeah.
That's a big dog. That's a big old dog right there.
Well, this is the interesting thing in Britain because our biggest predator is a fox.
Okay.
The next biggest animal. Yeah.
They're not that big though, right? I mean, foxes are kind of small, right?
Yeah, that's it. So, having something like a hellhound, it's, I think this is possibly where you've got some older kind of animal that's just staying in the woods. I mean, the woods are quite thick around there, and being a royal place as it was in the past, then possibly something survived a bit longer. Mm-hmm. We don't have wild. Sorry.
Oh no, that's me. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm still here.
Sorry. I've got my own hellhound chewing on my fingers at the moment.
Oh, you got a hellhound over there.
Yeah, just trying to make sure she doesn't crap on the floor somewhere.
You got to tame that thing. It seems like there's a lot of weird activity in this one small place, and we haven't really gone through all of it. But I just have to make sure I dig through every weird occurrence. I have to do my job, ask questions, right? So let me get this straight. And this, like, first off, how big is this place? Isn't it kind of small?
Yeah, I mean, it drifts over a few counties. I can't remember the exact size of it, but it drifts over several counties.
Several counties. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it goes over the border of several places. So it's not like I mean, from the point of view of the states, it probably is a small place, but you've got you've got even one of the footpaths, what they call the dog trail, is something like 11 kilometers. So what's that, 7 or 8 miles, something like this.
Okay.
So from British point of view, it's fairly sizable, and here you go, 68 kilometers, 26 square miles.
Okay.
26.
So in 26 square miles, we have a lot of this activity going on here, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
We have ghost sightings. There's these hellhounds. There's Bigfoot.
Yep.
There's werewolves. What else is going on?
UFOs, of course. They've got to get in there somewhere. So
UFOs. You have UFOs.
During the 80s, there was a lot of UFO activity.
Okay.
And some folk have put this to the fact that there were military bases around the place after the war, and some people have wondered if that had anything to do with it. Now the military bases come to the next thing, is the Pigman.
The Pigman.
The Pigman.
The Pigman. Okay. Pigman. Okay. What is the Pigman?
It's a man who's a pig.
Well, it's not a man pig. It's a pig man. So.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I mean, in this day and age, maybe he's species fluid. But,
yeah. You don't tell me. You don't tell him what he identifies as. Okay.
Depends. I don't know if anyone's seen if he's got a sausage or not. So. This figure that's been seen sort of around the area with, it's got a long face, like a pig style face.
Okay.
And making lots of noises and things like this, and scaring people. And one of the suggestions is that after the war, that there may have been medical experiments, and somewhere along the way, someone was messing around with pig tissue and human tissue.
Okay.
And the result was the Pigman. I think one of the stories is that he was that a woman was actually inseminated or something like this with pig semen as an experiment.
Would that even? I don't. Would that even work? I don't think. It would.
This is
impregnate a woman.
This is, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but from what I understand, in biology, that can't happen. But then again, in biology, I remember I was taught that there was two genders, but that's been thrown out, I guess, apparently now. Yeah. So,
no, the thing is, if you think about it, pig tissue's been used in things like heart transplants for years.
That's true.
So pig tissue is supposedly not unlike human tissue in quite a lot of ways. So the rumor goes that this was an experiment that they may have been trying, was to see how much they could use pig tissue to treat wounds or things like that, and for medical purposes. And Pigman escaped. He managed to escape.
He escaped.
Forest, and he's been hanging around. Apparently, this is one of the stories.
Yeah.
And so now, again, one of the more rational ideas on this that people have put forward is that perhaps the Ministry of Defence actually started this story deliberately to keep people away from the place, because there may have been some kind of secret activity going on in the military bases.
More reason to go there. More reason to go there.
Yeah, well, that's it. I don't think they were thinking about some of the kind of people that we know who, wow, big face man, I gotta go there.
Yep. Let's go live stream Deadmanstome live and Cannock Chase. We're gonna go find the Pigman and capture him.
There's several books on this, but again, I don't think anybody's got any photos of these ones.
No. I will say this. I know, I think there was a recent article where China's been experimenting with, I guess, I don't know what they're doing. I guess splicing human genes with animal genes and weird experimentation stuff going on there. I don't know. I mean, are there any photos or anything to
Sadly
show?
not.
No? Okay.
Sadly not. But as I say, these sightings seem to have been quite regular at a certain period. I don't know if there's been many recently, but so maybe he's retired from the scene or something like this. But
retired? It's getting a government check. I don't know. Eating bacon.
Everybody else does these days. So.
Yeah. All right. So what if? What if it was all con? What if someone or some family, some people made this story up and they kept it going alive?
Well, this is something people have said, is that maybe this is just kind of local folklore that's just kept growing. I mean, a lot of these stories are from, say, after the war. Mm-hmm. They're from after the war and, say, up until about the 1980s. So a lot of them are very pre-internet.
Yeah.
So a few folk have said that maybe these are just stories where you wouldn't be able to find the person who was the original sighting, or supposed to be the original person who saw them. It would be very hard to track that, and it seems to be some kind of local folklore that's actually going around. Obviously, with the internet, that's getting heavier. But it does seem that there seems to be a lot of different things. Like I say, we've got werewolves, we've got Pigman, we've got possible hellhounds. I think big cats come in there. Maybe you can group some of them. Things together.
It sounds like if all this stuff is actually happening, it sounds like it'd be ripe for investigators to go in there and look for this stuff.
Quite a lot of them have. Quite a lot of them have. I was reading up about the werewolves, and someone said, "Oh yes, there's quite good evidence about the werewolves." And I said, "Tell me the evidence then." But I think this was where they, the thing with the deer, where they came in was people were trying to rationalise it, but there were things that didn't quite work. So, like I said, like deer couldn't climb over. Could something actually survive in that area? It's not heavy forest like primeval sort of forest like this. You can walk through it, whether you want to walk through it at night with, Pigman running around.
Pigman running around. Okay. Now, other stuff we mentioned so far.
Apparently, it got very famous for something called dogging. Do you use the term dogging in the States?
Dogging, like for pranks?
Not quite.
Like playing, like hazing someone, like dogging.
It's meeting people for a bit of illicit activity outside in the open air.
Oh, like fucking out in the woods?
You just kind of drive your car somewhere, flash the lights, and then do it over the bonnet.
Oh, yeah. You fucking
and apparently in some places people get together in groups and watch each other, like doing it over the bonnet or in the trees.
Sure.
it got quite famous for that.
You got a Pigman orgy out there. I mean...
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have images of all these furries going there, and hi, I'm going to be Pigman today. Who wants to be done by Pigman?
That might explain some of these sightings. Maybe there's some early furries back in the day that were just dressing up as werewolves or pigmen or whatever. I mean, okay. I mean, these things we mentioned so far. What do you think? Like, do you believe in it? Like, how do you feel about it?
I'm not actually sure. I'm not really a big fan of UFOs. Scary animals, yeah, I'm quite into those. But it's one of these things. I kind of believe in a lot of these things, but I don't necessarily know that they are. It's like ghosts. Somebody say, "Do you believe in ghosts?" Yes, but I couldn't actually tell you what a ghost is. You see what I mean?
Yeah. I couldn't even tell you what a ghost is.
I believe there's something there to generate that story, but I don't necessarily know what the real explanation is.
The
romantic in me does like wild dogs and wolves and werewolves and things like this, but unfortunately, the skeptic in me raises an eyebrow at some of the explanations. But something else which we hadn't really touched on was the black-eyed children.
Okay, black-eyed kids. I've heard about this before, but in the U.S., there was a cop who claimed he saw some kids coming up to his car, and they had black eyes, and it like freaked him out or whatever. I like how this. So, I guess it's a totally different story, or is it kind of similar, or what happened?
It's similar. It was around the 1980s. Well, actually, about 2 or 3 years ago. They found there were reports of these kids coming out of the forests, knocking on the houses that were on the edge of the forests, and they got the black eyes, and some of them were asking for help, or they were just appearing, looking at people and giggling.
Giggling? Oh, no. The creepy kids, stay away. You're right.
Yeah, like the little girl who steps out and sort of black eyes and, looking like Alice Cooper, and giggling away and freaking people out. And it turned out that this had been happening about 30 years before as well, which was about the time, 1980s, this was about the time that it was happening in the States. So some of the investigators have said, maybe it's, maybe there's a portal there and these kids are coming through from other dimensions or the ghosts. One investigator said that she felt they were kids who died in epidemics in the past, like cholera epidemics, plague epidemics, and they were buried in unmarked graves from the workhouses. Now, one of the more even more sinister points about Cannock chases in the 1960s, there was a short series of child murders.
That's right.
Yeah, there was a guy he'd molested and murdered 3 kids. I think one was about 5, 7, and 9. I think the ages were.
Oh God!
And left the bodies over. It was over a 3-year period, and he left the bodies on the chase. So
he just left them. He didn't even bother burying them.
I'm not actually sure. I mean, when you read it, just says they found the remains, so he might have buried them or just left them there. But he was actually caught. He was sentenced to life. So he died, I think, about 2 years ago. He'd done 45 years in prison. That was one of the longest prisons in British history. And he, so some people were actually saying it was actually known as the Cannock Chase murders. And so some people are suggesting there might have been a link between these children appearing, because they actually appeared a few months after he died.
Okay, now this one has out of the stuff we talked about in the beginning, that was like, we're talking about werewolves. Okay, UFOs, hellhounds. Okay, but now I think this is possible. I think this might be something we have to worry about, for real.
Yeah.
Scary kids.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of hauntings around that area, like in pubs, and this is the thing. It's a very old area. As I said, there was either a monastery or some kind of holy well there at one point. You've got this Iron Age fort, circular fort on the edge of the chase. You've got a lot of activity historically, coaching inns, hunting, whatever else went on. And so, if we're into the ghosts and things like that, and again the military activity and Pigman. So that there's been a lot of stuff in the past around that area that.
And the reason why I'm putting a little bit more weight on that, more emphasis on that, is because, we're talking about like sightings of ghostly activity, and then with these kids with the black eyes, but then you have this guy who, before those kids with the black eyes were seen, murdered these kids, or murdered kids. And you said 3 kids, right? Like 3? Yeah. Okay, and just left their bodies there. Yeah. I mean, you could follow the link to that, and it kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. A few people have. I mean, I haven't read widely enough to know if it's just girls that these black-eyed kids are. I think, if there's boys there, then that. Well, maybe they're boys that weren't found,
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they should start digging. Dig some more. What else what else will they find?
Pretty dangerous thing to do in some parts of Britain, that.
Right.
Yeah. So again, this was, as I say, this was something that there was a 30-year gap. 30-year gap between them first being sighted in the 1980s. And then being cited again in 2014.
Yeah.
So again, some people have said maybe it's cyclic. Maybe there's some time connection there.
I mean, what do you think?
I think that's probably quite a possibility. I don't go so much for this idea of portals and stuff like this, but I mean, there's that much activity there. If you wanted to talk about portals, it would make sense. I'm a bit of a romantic. I like my ghosts, and there's a lot of haunted roadways sort of around that area where you could be driving down. And
we have a question in the chat. Lauren Castor. Which, by the way, if you're enjoying this, please press the like button and subscribe and share if you don't mind. Sharing helps out a whole lot. What if it's all one shape-shifting entity just fucking with us?
Entity fluid.
Yeah, entity fluid, like Q from Star Trek, The Next Generation. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. I've not actually seen that one, but
I'm not sorry. I'm not much of a Trekkie. I hope, but I get what you mean. A shape shifting entity just fucking with us.
yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that one.
Man, there's some death there. What if it all
Yeah.
is? Just
Yeah,
not just from this one area, but
that's
everywhere.
another thought. Is that just its hobby, or is that its raison d'etre, or is that its job?
I don't know. It's interesting because it's like these things, they just creep in to be known just a little bit, but they're not going to be. They're not going to like expose themselves in broad daylight. They just want to kind of mess with you, tease you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's like someone's playing a game with you.
Actually, with the dogging and everything, I suppose they do expose themselves in broad daylight sometimes.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I suppose if you've got like a dog and a pig and a werewolf and something like that, and a big cat.
Like I'll tell you this, Lauren. I'll tell you this. I said this before on the Deadmanstome podcast that if it's possible when I die, if it's possible for me to come back,
I think Lauren's got a good one.
If it's possible for me to, I don't know, prank everybody and haunt everybody, just like to mess with them, oh, I totally would. I would totally do that. I would do that immediately.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even hesitate. If I'm at the gates of heaven, they're like, okay, you want to chill here or you want to go back? So if I go back, I can like play pranks and mess with people. Well, we can't stop you, but I mean, just send me back down because I got so much stuff I could do, so much stuff. You know.
That could be a good thing. You know, what would you do if you were a ghost? How would you piss somebody off?
You can have fun with it, or you can go evil, man. You know, you can be raiding the fridge for beer. Or,
I'd haunt a cinema. I'd haunt a cinema, and each time there's an Avengers movie, I'd go up and whisper the spoilers in their ears.
Yeah.
Why haven't they got a supervillain who does that? You know,
That'd be great.
Supervillain who gives spoilers out. The Thanos finger click is nothing to the guy who's giving out the spoilers. Yeah. Actually, getting back to that, the sort of shape-shifting entity. As I say, it's not a big stretch of the imagination to go from a werewolf to a hellhound to a cat and something like that. That's quite possible.
Could be possible. I mean, so far for those listening, what do y'all think about this? What do you think about the werewolf, or the UFO, or the Pigman? The Pigman, that sounds out there. But you have China outright experimenting with animals and human genetics. Is it possible?
Well, I heard when I was in Germany, when I was in the army, there was a place called Vogelsang, and it had been a kind of training camp for young officers of the master race. And there were rumors there that they'd been doing like baby farms and genetic experiments. And one of the stories was that when the Americans overtook the place at the end of the war, they found these genetic experiments in the laboratories under the camp, and they just closed the doors and left them there. So
yeah,
you know,
what
back in the 40s.
Wait. What sort of experiments did we talk about? Did they document any of this? I'm curious now.
No, I don't know. This was just rumor control going around. So
graft like a pig face on a baby or something. Like, what were they? God dang it.
Well,
man.
Possible. Have you ever heard of the Guinea Pig Club? Nothing to do with real guinea pigs.
Yeah.
You ever heard of the Guinea Pig Club?
No, I have not. What was the Guinea Pig Club?
Google the Guinea Pig Club. It was the First World War.
Okay.
Was it? No, sorry, it was Second World War, and it was pilots who'd been burnt. When the planes went down, they'd been burned, and it was one of the first major centres practicing plastic surgery and reconstructive surgery.
Okay.
and you see some of the pictures that of these guys, you know, and they've got like these incredibly long noses, or they've got sort of like skin coming from the face to the neck, or something like this, because they were, you know, practicing reconstructing and building. And it looks like this was why it was called the Guinea Pig Club, because they were really testing stuff on them that they didn't know about. You know, the skin transplant.
Fuck! I have images here. No, that's not real. Wait a second. No, I'll take a closer look at this. If it's real, I'm gonna I'll post it on the screen. They're just okay. Oh, let me just put this on the screen here. I'll just capture the whole window so you guys can see what I'm looking at in the browser. You have, of course, all their noses are deformed because these are injuries, horrible face injuries, and they're trying to like reconstruct it and make sense of it. Was that what's going on here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, the First World War. This is where you get the term plastic surgery, because they were making sort of plastic bits out of plastic and things to go over the burn sections. And you know, then it became more to do with facial reconstruction.
This guy looks like he has an elephant trunk for a nose. What is going on there?
Yeah. Well, they probably transplanted the skin from one point, and then what they'll do is they'll roll the skin up and like form him a nose that way.
But they seem pretty happy with the nurses. The nurses are on their side, like all smiling.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if their dicks still work.
Now, if you think they're using human tissue there, but you know, who's to say some of the kinds of experiments that were going on over in Germany or somewhere like that? Who's to say that people weren't trying to do things with like pig tissue or something like this?
Yeah,
which
that's true.
You know,
that's true.
Think about. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger's got he's got pig valves in his heart.
he probably does.
I think it was just before he made that Batman film. He had some major heart surgery. I think he had a heart attack or something, and they fitted pig valves into his heart. So it wouldn't be the first time that kind of animal species have been used on.
You know, I was about to stop you and be like, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Batman film, which one? We then remembered, oh, wait, that's right. He played Mr. Freeze, and that one I totally forgot about.
Very good thing to do with that film. Truly forget about it.
I was so good at it. I was about to call you out. He was never in a Batman film. Man. Okay. So what else should we talk about in the... I'm horrible at pronouncing this. Cannock Chase.
Cannock. That's it. Cannock.
What else?
Yeah. Cannock is a town in the area, so it's the Royal Hunt connected with Cannock.
There is, I don't know, I've read about this. Apparently, there's child sex abuse, maybe some sort of pedophile ring connected to the Cannock Chase.
This was again. This was I think about 20 years ago, maybe.
All right.
And there was a woman who claimed she'd been raped, and she claimed there was a lot of.
Was it Epstein? Was it Jeff Epstein?
Trouble is, whenever you say Epstein, I think of the Beatles.
Oh, okay.
The manager was Brian Epstein, and so someone says Epstein, and who?
Oh man, that last name's ruined now. Okay. She claimed that there was she claimed she'd been held prisoner and raped by some high-ranking politicians and things like this. But it was 2015, if I remember rightly, and so I was getting my dates mixed up there. 2015. I'm looking at an article here. I'm looking at an article that was written, at least posted in 2015, May 26. Yeah.
Yeah, we the only thing with that is, I mean, she said there was something like some top politicians and other sort of powerful members of society, but she said it took place around Cannock Chase.
Okay.
There's other things, but so far nothing's been proved. Now I'm not sure how far that's going to get now, because we had a case also recently where some guy said that there was a big ring of sort of paedophile rings in Britain, and the police followed it up and they were arresting people, and then it turns out this guy just made the whole thing up.
Oh wow!
And the police put so much work and time into it, a few reputations out the window, and then it turns out the whole thing was made up, and the guy's a total fantasist.
But yeah, well, people can make all sorts of stuff on people all the time, and they do it.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, it's got quite.
She's
it's got
afraid
quite
to
big
say the name. She might as well just say the name. Just say it. What's going to happen? Are they going to make you disappear? I mean, do they have this sort of problem in Britain? Do they have like a? Hold on. In Britain, do they have a prestigious family that may or may not have a list of body count and might not have a body count list? Like the Clintons?
Well, the royal family, there's people who say that Diana was disposed of,
Okay.
But yeah, there's well, we had it a few years ago, about 5 years ago. There was a famous DJ, and he'd been around forever, since the sort of start of the pop music and things like this in the 60s, and he was a DJ, TV personality. He was a papal knight. He got like a knighthood from the Vatican. He got a knighthood from the Queen, and he rubbed shoulders with everybody. And when he died, it turned out he rubbed more than shoulders. History. And I mean, if even a percentage of the people who were coming forward, are genuine, this guy, I don't know how he used to run marathons. I don't know how he had the energy to run the marathons after all the sex crimes he was doing, but
man,
he was involved with like children's hospitals and things like this. So
wow.
There's been going there and the nurses turning a blind eye. There was I think there was psychiatric hospitals he used to visit, and abusing kids on his TV show. And the thing was, the BBC, everybody, when he died, everybody says, oh, that was a bit of an open secret. Like everybody knew about it, or it was, I didn't know about it, but I'd heard about it. A bit like what's his name?
Stuff.
Weinstein, when
that stuff happens. That stuff happens.
Yeah, it was. I never knew about that. And then it came out. They had a big thing called Operation U-Tree, where they started investigating performers, a lot of performers and things like this, for what we now call historic sex crimes.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
But it got slightly ridiculous, really. Not ridiculous in the fact that they were, investigating stuff, but it was like somebody might have, rubbed someone's tits or something like that, and they put it in the same box as a multiple thing, and that might have been 50 years ago, and there were a few people sent down for it as well. So all children's entertainers, you suddenly find out that all the people that your parents sat you down in front of the TV to watch were actually molesting.
That's hard to deal with, But in this situation, this woman claiming that this happened at a Cannock Chase, it's like, okay, well,
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me that things were happening. It's quite a nice bit of and everything like this, and but this whole thing about top members of the government or doing it, we've had a lot of that in the last few years, and very little of it seems to be.
Maybe it was the Pigman. Maybe the Pigman did it, and she just couldn't identify. It looks like a politician. Looks ugly enough for a politician, but I'm not for sure.
Do you know the stories of David Cameron?
I'm aware. Something about a pig. I've
Yeah.
heard stories. Is it true that he fucked a pig, or he put a?
The story is that he, I think at some big banquet or something, to join in with some, I don't know, some kind of social organization, or you know, like your universities in America, you have your Skull and Bones and stuff like that. Apparently, to get into some group, he had to like
Initiation.
Stick his sausage in the mouth of a roast pig or something like this.
Oh my god!
The guy who came out with the story was someone who had a grudge to bear. So
isn't that what inspired Black Mirror? Their first episode. Have you ever seen that?
No.
I think it's still on Netflix. But the first episode, it's not much of a spoiler. It's kind of old, but the first episode has to do with a politician and a pig. Okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I may have heard something about that one. Yeah, but
he's pretty much forced to, through some manipulation, to do something to a pig, like live, broadcast live to everyone.
Oh, that's it. Somebody says something about I've got a bomb somewhere, and you the pig. I think I saw a trailer for it. But
yeah, crazy stuff. Oh, so anything else that we need to talk about Cannock Chase?
I think we've covered most of the main points.
Most of the main points.
Apart from that, it's a very nice place to visit.
It does look lovely. It looks very nice. I mean, the images.
It is.
I would like to walk through that.
I have fond memories of having picnics there, without members of parliament.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind the Pigman though. I mean, he could visit. I might have some extra food for him too. As long as if I could take a picture, you know. And as long as he doesn't mind eating some pork. I don't know how he feels. I don't know how Pigman would feel about that. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, nothing. Tell me a guy who hasn't dreamed about nibbling his own sausage, you know.
Right. Eating bacon with the Pigman.
Well, that could be a tourist thing. That could be a tourist thing. Eat bacon with the Pigman.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Well, you could combine it and have a sandwich. Have a sandwich with the Pigman.
Yeah.
The Pigman.
Nice. So is that what happens here? Because like in the U.S., you would have some family or some operation that would exploit it for money. So do you guys have that with this place?
Not really. I don't think so. This is the interesting. I think you get one or two people come to the newspapers. You know, they might get 50 quid or something like that, or but we don't really go as big as you seem to do in the States.
Man, yeah, in the States, if there was a place like this, there would be a house next to it with a sign, "See Bigfoot here," and you could pay for all these pamphlets and all this stuff and go on a tour. Oh yeah, they will milk that dry.
Yeah, you get the psychics, and you know, we've got things like best ghosts or something like that. They might come and investigate it and do a thing on it, but it doesn't seem to go as sort of full blown as the impression we get that it does in the States. I mean, there was an ex-footballer who said that he'd been having it away. You know, he'd been doing the dogging, doing the dogging there.
Doing the dogging. Now I know what that means.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But no, it's. I think the British are kind of quite sceptical about that. You know, everyone's sort of like, you know, oh, I saw a werewolf. Oh yeah, you know.
It seems to be an American thing to try to make money out of everything. Scary. You know. You might get a little bit of tourism about it. You know, maybe they might include it in one of the local tourist sites. Or, but I think we're a bit skeptical about it. That's good. Hell, we have Roswell, right? Roswell, New Mexico. Their whole city is based off of UFOs and UFO sightings. Man, It's everywhere. Okay. All right. So, man, Trev Hill, I had a great time talking about talking about Cursed Earth here. I mean, I would like to do more of these. As the difficult thing is going to be about schedule. Well, we can get together to do this. So, if anything in the future,
the folks in the States there, it's now 5:30 in the morning. I've been up since 4 o'clock. So.
Yeah. You all listening right now, watching, thank you so much. Press the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll keep content like Cursed Earth coming out, since, I mean, why not talk about crazy stuff that's actually happening around us, right? I'll do that. And if you enjoy the show, you're not obligated to, but if you want to throw $1 in the tip jar, feel free to. The Streamlabs thing is right there on the screen, streamlabs.com/MrDeadmanDT, or to Super Chats on YouTube. All right.
Or donate to Meow Paws Cat Shelter, Macedonia.
Meow Paws. That's right. You can donate there. Yep. All right. Well, Trev,
and some of the things those guys have to put up with is a lot more horrific than things I write about. So. Okay, Jesse.
I can only imagine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all take it easy.